I'm truly believe that we're going to see definitely, let's say, a shift in terms of the power map of microchips, in the world, with US, trying to reaffirm itself, European Union doing the same thing, so obviously the large economic blocs, will be putting their economic power to basically try to make sure that this situation doesn't happen again, at least to the same extent, because we all know how microchips are critical, to the success of so many products. However, what we need to see is that these efforts, will not come to fruition overnight. So potentially we'll see something, in the horizon within 4 years or so happening. But nevertheless, we will not be immediate. And also at the same time, one thing we need to see is that to play a very strong role, in the microchip power map, you need a lot of incentives. And the big question here is, let's say governments of large economic blocs putting now, their power behind, let's say a revival of the microchip sector. They can set up factories and so forth, but will they be able to keep pumping the incentives that are necessary to keep it alive in the long term? So that's the big question, which I think will need to be answered also in the long term.
Another question too is what happens to consolidation in the sector. We've watched a ton of deals in recent years, but now even with the NVIDIA push to try and take over ARM, they've faced even more hurdles than they anticipated. Having spoken to the company, to ARM before, they thought there would be a number of hurdles, but this is even stronger than they thought. Does that mean we should be looking at stripping out the takeover premium in some of these companies because deals in the sector are going to be much more challenging because of these national security concerns that we're talking about?
Yeah, I believe that this sector will become more politicized. It will become more exposed to national interests, and so therefore every major strategic move, in this sector, like mergers and acquisitions, will be heavily scrutinized, by let's say governments of main economic blocs, So therefore, this definitely, raises an additional level of complexity.
Pedro, you answered, I think, my last question about the competition we're going to see between different blocks as well. This feeds into the concern that we're going to see global competition for resources from a Chinese-based bloc and a US Western-based bloc as well. In terms of the search for raw materials, and it often goes to the developing world as well, are we going to see a dangerously competitive situation?
Potentially, no doubt, and I think that securing resources, is always important. Although silica, which is the main component of every microchip, is not exactly in shortage. I think that the main concern is actually to be able to from a microchip production perspective, to be able to deliver, the most advanced technology and in a cost competitive manner. So this actually will be the main, let's say, this will be the do or die for the investments that these governments want to put forward, because, as I mentioned, you can basically set up major manufacturing plants, in their own countries, to basically boost the national capacity of microchips. But if those factories are not cost competitive, they will not be sustainable. So this is in the end the main challenge on the long term.